step one isn't just about saying you're powerless. For me, the real step one was this. Am I willing to sit here for an hour and just listen? That's it. 60 minutes? Man, I could think of 1,000 reasons why I didn't have time for that. My head was like, Oscar, just get through the hour and get back to what we need to do. We got this. But deep down, I knew I didn't. I was out of options. I was out of lies. I was out of will. 40 years of drinking and drugging, 3 divorces, great jobs gone, God giving me everything and me taking it for granted, hurting people that I loved and people that loved me. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. But here's the thing, some of us burned so many bridges, our families don't even want to talk to us anymore. Our friends don't trust us, and honestly, nobody gives a shit anymore because they're tired of your lies and your manipulation. They don't believe a word you say anymore because alcoholics and drug addicts will say anything to get what they want. At the end of the day, the only thing I was committed to at that time was drinking, drugging, and getting whatever I wanted when I wanted it. That's how self-centered and selfish I had become. That's why meetings matter, because suddenly you are in a room where people actually want you there, and you start to think, if it worked for them, maybe it could work for me. You know, they say don't leave before the miracle happens. And at first I was like, what miracle? The miracle happened for me the day I started to pay attention. The day I stopped comparing and started relating. Until then, I was just sitting there scrolling through my phone, thinking about all the emails I had to respond to. So, yeah, the miracle is when I actually leaned in and listened. And then when I started to open up to like sharing, right? Because I come from a place where you don't talk about your problems, right? Everybody's got problems. You just deal with them and you just keep moving forward. And as you go through life and things happen and you feel in some cases you were betrayed by friends or family, you start to kind of feel like you can't trust anybody or talk to anybody. And really it's because you're just trying to hide all your dirt because you don't want anybody to hold you accountable for your actions, because at the end of the day you know what the problem is and you don't want to do anything about it. You're still trying to figure it out. For me, I couldn't even talk to, my own wives because I was so busy trying to cover my tracks, trying to cover, figure out how to cover money that I spent the night before because I knew that bills were going to hit the account, and just all the stress of keeping it going. And so, yeah, when I got out there, I wanted the party environment. I wanted to forget, I didn't want to talk about my problems. That's just not what we did or what I did. I wanted to keep things fun. And, yeah, I could sit for an hour in any room with anybody and talk about anything except my personal business, except my personal life. I'm sorry. That's just not something that we do. So it took some time, man. And, things started to change when I started to like opening my mouth and sharing a little bit on things that had happened to me that I said I would never tell anybody. And that in itself was a miracle. And then the little miracles, started stacking up, like going to the racetrack and walking by the big walk-in cooler that says cold beer on it. And, after a hot day, walking in there was like heaven, you know. And I remember 100,000 trips to the liquor store and to the gas stations and to the bars. And, the first time I was able to go in and walk by that cooler and not buy any alcohol was big for me. At that time, my life was a mess, dude, and it was just baby steps. And I encouraged myself, and I just said, way to go, man, and thank you, Jesus, for saving my life, because yeah, that's what was happening, right? The baby steps within step one. Um, it may not look like much, but for me, there were big ones. You know, every day that I don't drink, every day that I show up at a meeting, every day that I don't lie, that I can be honest with myself and with others, that's growth. And trust me, it doesn't always feel good. It doesn't, you know, we don't want to talk about the things we've done. We don't want to look at ourselves. But that's really when I started to do that work was when things started to change. And you know, today, even today, sometimes life feels like, oh, what's going on, and this and that, and it can be overwhelming. But it doesn't last long. I think that these meetings and this program prepares you for the tough days ahead. And sometimes there's nothing wrong, but it feels like there's something wrong or there's something missing in your life. And really, what it is just that demon in there that wants you to drink, that wants chaos, because we lived in chaos and in survival mode for so long that that's what actually feels normal to us. So, yes, you gotta, that's where the growth comes in, and you have to kind of grow into something else. You know, these are not just slogans. You know, they say don't leave until the miracle happens. And, you know, those little miracles were big for me. You know, just don't wait until you get a DUI. Don't wait until you get fired. Don't wait until your wife threatens to leave you and take the kids. Right? Be humble enough to know you've got some issues you have to work through. Find someone to talk to. Sometimes a stranger is the perfect person. They don't know you, you don't know them. You know, people need a place to go where somebody will listen to them. And more than anything, that's what these meetings do. It's somebody that's been through the same thing that understands immediately. And sometimes you just got to vent. You just got to get things out. You just got, you know, and in that process, you come to a lot of realizations on your own because, you know, all I'm telling you is, hey, here's what happened to me and here's what I did. Right. And, but the being there for someone to listen to you, you know, that's huge. Um, and again, you've got to be willing to be brutally honest with yourself. You've got to look at your own dirt, which is tough. So it starts with, you know, can I sit here for an hour and really listen and try to relate and then share a little bit on whatever the topic is, right? And that's, you know, you're becoming more and more willing to do those things. So the miracles happen in those little moments, the ones you thought you'd never get through, the ones that remind you that God is still saving your life. Anyway, I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes. When I let go of who I am, I become who I might be. Mahatma Gandhi. Thank you for letting me talk a little recovery with you. God bless you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.